What's up YouTube and welcome to a new video. So 1 year ago I made these two videos over here in which I analyzed the depreciation curves of the 911, 991 Carrera S and the base model. And in those videos I said that it was a good moment to enter the 911 market and that especially the S versions offered excellent value for money. Now, 1 year later, I will show you what actually happened in the 911 market and if my claims made any sense. Moreover, the comparison will show us if it's still a good moment to enter the 911 market, if there was an impact of the 992 introduction, and how much the cars will lose in the future. Now without further ado, let's pull in some data, so be prepared to crunch some numbers. Let's first have a look at today's market. You can see that we have the model year on the horizontal axis and the price on the vertical axis, and that each car for sale is represented by a dot. The 991.2 generation is displayed in orange and the 991.1 generation in blue. And note that this graph, and also all the graphs in the remainder of this video, will only include the two-wheel driven Carrera S and the base models. Now let me run you through some numbers. At this moment there are 392 cars for sale and the median price lays around $83,000. But the numbers can be a bit misleading. You can see that there's a very large price difference between the two generations. On average, the 991.2 is $22,000 more expensive than the 991.1. Moreover, you can see that between the most recent 991.1 and the oldest 991.2, there's a price gap of around $15,000. Let's now also have a quick look as to how the market looks when we split it even further, so by model type. You can see that we have now the S in blue and red, and that the base version is displayed in orange and green. And, of course, the S model is significantly more expensive than the base model. But, like I pointed out in my previous analysis, the premium which you pay for an S fades away when the car ages. For example, for the 991.2 you need to pay on average $11,000 more for the S version, while this is only $6,800 for the 991.1. So I would say that the S offers good value for money for the older model years. Now then, let's compare the current market to the market 1 year ago. This will namely show us how the price has changed. Now you can make this analysis for various market splits, such as the split between transmission type, roof type, model type, color, and many more. I will however only show you the price changes per generation and per model type, so the two splits which we saw before. The other data splits didn't reveal anything interesting. However, before we dive into all the details and all the various splits, I will first show you how the full market changed. And that I will do by showing you the changes in the price and the mileage distributions. Let's start with the change in the price distribution. You can see now that in orange we have the market as of December 2019 and in blue we have the one for December 2020. Now in these 12 months, the median price hardly changed as it only dropped with $3,000. However, that is not the full story. There's a lot more going on here. If you look at the right tail of the distributions, you can see that especially the high-priced cars came down in price. The lower-priced cars, so the ones in the left tail of the distribution, didn't decrease. So this tells us that we need to investigate which market segment remains stable and which market segment is responsible for the price drop. If we continue then with the mileage distribution, then you can see something that you might have expected. Mileage is namely increased with 6.3 thousand miles. And for a car like the 911, an increase of 6.3 thousand miles is quite a lot. It namely means that this year, most people drove their car 6.3 thousand miles. So, the previous analysis revealed that we need to look at more granular data to figure out what actually happened with the prices here. So let's do that with the following split. You can see now 4 graphs on your screen. One for the 991.1 S, one for the 991.1 base, one for the 991.2 base, and finally one for the 991.2 S. And each graph again contains the market for December 2020 and December 2019. In other words, we can compare the two markets and see exactly what happened. We will therefore go through each graph and investigate the price change from a model year and a mileage perspective. And we start with the 991.1 base model. You can see that market supply shrunk from 113 to 78 cars and that the median price actually increased. 1 year ago you had to come up with $64,000, while now this is $65,000. And this is impressive, especially since last year's depreciation curve actually predicted a drop of $2,000. However, it is not enough to say that prices are actually going up. The price increase over here is namely not statistically confirmed. And this means that the price increase can also be the result of a change in market composition or just pure chance. In any case, we can say that prices remain stable. And this is also wonderfully illustrated by the depreciation curves and the black axis which show the median price points. For model year 2016, 2015 and 2013, there's almost no difference in the prices. For model year 2014 and 2012, the prices are slightly higher now than that they were a year ago. However, for the latter, there are quite few observations and the cars have a mileage which is much lower than the cars which were for sale a year ago. But what is especially interesting here are the cars from model year 2013. Mileages over here increased with 7.5 thousand miles, but the median price remained exactly the same. And this shows that this is clearly a very strong market. But let's now also analyze it from a mileage perspective. That might give us some different insights. Here you can see now the mileage on the horizontal axis instead of the model year. You can also see that the blue line lays above the orange line for the majority of the mileages. And this means that, for example, a car with 30,000 miles has now at least the same value as what it had a year ago. So this is confirming what we saw in the previous graph where we analyzed the market from a model year perspective. Alright, let's do a quick recap. For the 991.1 base model, we saw that prices didn't decrease, and this is in line with what we saw in the price distributions. Those namely showed that there was no change at the bottom end of the market, so the left tail of the distributions. And that is exactly where the 991.1 base model is placed. Let's figure out now what's happening in the S market. We start again with the model year perspective. Now also in this market segment, supply decreased from 184 to 94 cars. But contrary to the base market, prices decreased with $2.5 thousand, and this decrease is on the edge of being statistically confirmed. And note that the mileage increase is very similar for both markets. Now the fact that the price decrease is not statistically confirmed, we can also see back in the graph. For example, for model year 2015, prices clearly decreased, but for other model years, it's much more difficult to spot a change in the price level. In other words, price changes fluctuate and it's difficult to say that they decreased. But if we switch again to the mileage perspective, we can see a bit better as to where the price decrease actually took place. Here you can see that prices mainly decreased for the cars under 20,000 miles. Over there you can see that the blue line lays under the orange line. And note that this covers a large part of the market. For the high mileage cars, the blue line lays above the orange one, but we don't have so many data points over there. Alright, I hope that you are still with me. We will take a little break now and summarize what we just saw. 991.1 prices hardly changed. And this is remarkable. Yes, they are slightly older cars, but not so old yet that you would expect a full bottom. However, as I showed in another video, the used car market has been exceptionally strong in the last few months. And if you're interested in that, then I recommend that you click on the pop-up banner right over here. And this also means that the 991.1 market might just be another example of a strong used car market. But there's a bit more to it. We namely saw that the price distributions revealed that there was a big price decrease at the top end of the market. And you guessed it, that's the 991.2 market. That market took a very big hit, but in a different way than I expected. Let me show you. But before we move on to the 991.2, if you like this video, please support the channel by smashing that like button. Let's have a look now as to how large the price decreases are, and we start again with the base version. If we look at the market from a model year perspective, we can see some big and some small changes. Supply decreased from 182 to 152 cars, and the median price decreased with $4.4 thousand. However, this decrease is almost all taken by the cars from model year 2019. For that model year, prices decreased from $110,000 to $95,000. So a drop of roughly 14%. However, this decrease is what one could expect. In the video which I posted last year, I namely showed you that you can expect to lose around $18,000 on a 991.2 base model from model year 2019. And also intuitively, this large drop makes sense. These are after all the newest cars which 1 year ago still included new cars. The cars which are now included in model year 2019 are all used cars. Now if we look at the other model years, then we can see that prices dropped only marginally. The cars from model year 2018 only dropped by $3,000, and the cars from model year 2014 only dropped with $1,000. And this is of course an extraordinary result for cars which are so new. Now if we look at the market from a mileage perspective, things become even more clear. You can see that the current market doesn't include cars which have 0 miles, while 1 year ago this was still a significant market segment. In other words, the price decrease for the 991.2 base models is caused by the drop in prices for the new cars. But wait, there is more. Let me show you what happens when we remove the new cars from the market of December 2019. In other words, what happens when we make this a like-for-like comparison. Now you can see that prices didn't decrease at all. In fact, they went up slightly. You can see that the blue line lays above the orange line. And this is remarkable. But, and please stay with me here, we can analyze this price increase even further by splitting this graph by model year. Here you can see now 3 graphs, one for model year 2017, one for model year 2018 and one for model year 2019. And note that I added back the new cars of last year's market to model year 2019. Now then, this plot is showing us exactly which part of the market is pushing prices up and which part is pushing prices down. Prices were pushed down by the new cars which took their first depreciation hit, but they are pushed up slightly by the cars from model year 2017. Those cars namely went up with around $1,200. And this is especially remarkable given the mileage increase of 5,500 miles. Now I investigated this data even further, but I couldn't find a good reason for the price increase. It at least had nothing to do with the transmission type, the roof type or the colors. The price increase what you see over here is then also not statistically confirmed, meaning that it might be the result of chance. But in any case, it is very impressive to see how well prices held. So, is the situation the same in the S market? Let's have a look. Supply over here decreased from 163 to 68 cars and the price decreased with $7,000. And that is the largest price decrease out of all the market segments. You can then also see that for all model years, prices went down. Nevertheless, just as we saw in the base market, the largest decrease comes from the cars in model year 2019. They lost around $23,000, which is slightly less than predicted. And again, the decrease is caused by the new cars which took their first depreciation hit. Cars from model year 2018 lost around $7,500 and the cars from model year 2017 lost around $3,000. Now if we look at this market from a mileage perspective, the reason for this big drop becomes again very clear. It simply are the new cars which took their first hit. However, contrary to the base market, when I remove the new cars here to get a like-for-like comparison, we can't see any price increases. Rather, we can see that prices remain stable as the orange and the blue lines are overlapping. But also this is impressive, given that the mileage for the S models increased with 7,000 miles. And on that note, let's wrap up and conclude. I hope you stayed with me during all the breakdowns and that you could follow all the price changes in the market. I included quite a bit more than what I normally do in my videos, but I felt this was necessary to give you a complete picture of all the price changes. Now then, last year I posted a video about the 911 991 market and that video had the title "Why Now is the best moment to buy a Porsche 911 991. And in that video I pointed out that the cars from model year 2014, 2013 and 2012 are probably bottomed out, at least for the time being. And this indeed turned out to be the case. We namely saw that the 991.1s didn't come down in price. Now what I also pointed out in the video is that the new cars were likely to take a large hit. And this is then also exactly what happened and the value drops are in line with what was predicted. Now what I didn't expect was the stability in the prices for the other 991.2 model years. The analysis which I showed you today revealed that the oldest model years in the 991.2 range didn't lose any value and that the cars from model year 2018 only lost a bit. And all of this is especially remarkable given that the mileages increased and that the 992 was introduced. If anything, one could expect that mileage increases would push prices down, or that some people would start to switch to the 992. But none of this had a significant effect on the prices. The 991 just remains a very popular 911. So, what does all of this then mean for the future values? Well, like I mentioned before, used car values have been exceptionally strong over the last year. And some of that effect might also be incorporated in the 991 market. Now when that starts to fade away and the world returns to normal, prices might come down slightly. But I don't see any reason as to why prices should decrease significantly in the long run. Now if you like this way of analyzing car markets, please head over to my channel. Over there you will find many more depreciation analysis. And if you can't find the car you're looking for, please comment it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I will make a video about it. Also don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell so you get actually notified when your requested analysis goes live. As always, a huge thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week for a new video.